From his first encounter with the Necromorphs, Isaac is cut off from the world. In most cutscenes, he's separated from other humans by a plane of glass, a barrier, a computer screen, and physical distance. He's alone. Often, he's forced to watch terrible things happen without being able to intervene, to the point that one of the few humans in the game who helps you, who could be considered a friend, is killed on the other side of a wall, and Isaac can do nothing. Nicole, the driving force behind Isaac's story, is a voice and a face seen in videos and heard in recordings. She can't be touched. Isaac is cast adrift, locked inside his suit and mask, locked behind doors and quarantines, totally alone in this dangerous maze of dark corridors and monster-filled corners. Isaac is cut off from the player, too. We don't get to know who he is or what he looks like for most of the game. We aren't meant to identify with him, but to watch him suffer, further isolating him from the only person who is with him the whole game, us. The game is dehumanizing in a way that few stories I've experienced have been. From the moment you arrive on the Ishimura, life starts to have less value. Most of the team is immediately lost, and Isaac is forced to abandon them to survive. The Necromorphs are dead humans brought back to life, which Isaac is forced to kill. Worse yet, he has to dismember the dead bodies he finds to keep them from returning. Basic human rights, like a respectful burial after death, are denied to these people. It's horrifying how routine the game makes this grotesque practice of destroying bodies as if they never had any value. The monsters themselves further dehumanize the crew of the Ishimura. Once a body has changed, it's impossible to tell who it was. Many notes and recordings in-game hint at the fate of various characters, but while we know they died, we don't know how, where, or what became of them, what they were turned into. The Necromorphs are a faceless, personalityless mass of dead flesh, representing the deaths of all the crew together. Even the bodies on the floor, unchanged by Necromorphs, are so degraded it's often hard to identify them. The few times we see living people, they are often turned away from us or wearing masks, or bandanas cover their eyes, making them seem less human, less individual. The only way we really hear from the crew are from recordings, which have no faces either. It's so lonely seeing few living people forced to treat their bodies like trash, constantly having to accept that everyone you meet will die and you can't do a thing about it. That too is dehumanizing, because you have to start valuing the lives of others less, or else be unable to function given how much death is occurring. You see the same thing happen to the crew of the ship. Those you find alive are damaged, killing themselves or others, behaving in a generally deranged fashion. Life no longer has any meaning on this ship. There are a lot of forces at work that make this happen. The Necromorphs are one, but human beings are another. Through notes, videos, and recordings in-game, it becomes clear that certain people on board sabotage the ship, members of a cult called Unitology. Unitology is described as a group made of people from many backgrounds, including science and the very powerful, and it preaches a belief system that focuses on death as a gateway to the perfect form of life. In design, the group is similar to real-world Scientology, a modern faith funded by the rich and powerful with a dark reputation. The faith believes that after death, followers will be transformed and made part of a hive mind with a new body, hence the uniting aspect of Unitology. The Necromorphs are seen as the next stage of human life, especially by Dr. Mercer, one of the main antagonists. The concept is again dehumanizing to its practitioners. It tells them to devalue their own bodies and lives. Only through unification after death will they have value as a larger unit. Individually, they don't matter. When members of the cult ritually kill themselves, they tie bags around their heads so you can't see their faces, again reducing them to unknown dead bodies, taking away their individuality. Its own language, a simple cipher in which specific letters of the alphabet are equated to a different symbol. While this cipher is unique to Dead Space, it does have a physical resemblance to an old angelic language created by Cornelius Agrippa, a theologian and writer in the 16th century. While they aren't the same, the style, simple lines decorated with empty circles, is very similar. Agrippa's language was also a cipher, unlike the Enochian angelic language created by Dr. John Dee. Throughout the game, the phrase "make us whole" or "make us whole again" is seen and said by multiple characters, sometimes by Nicole, sometimes by random bodies or computer screens. Once you finish the game, it's clear what was meant here. It is the voice of the marker, trying to influence those around it to return it to the colony. It's an eerie thing to hear in a game filled with broken bodies, severed limbs, and distorted humanoid monsters. No one is whole in this game. Everything is damaged, broken, or incomplete, including Isaac, who we never learn about or hear speaking in this game. It's also eerie because the dead bodies do become part of a whole, the Necromorphs' hive mind. That hardly makes them whole again. They are more broken than before, but by the twisted logic of Unitology and the Necromorphs, this broken form of life is better than what existed before, because it is part of the unified whole. Individuality has no value. There are a lot of themes of sacrifice in this game. Sacrificing people, sacrificing your own life to rise again in a supposedly better form. The theme ties in perfectly with Isaac's name. Isaac is a Hebrew name, and the name of a figure that plays a large role in the Bible, one of the patriarchs, who is famously almost sacrificed to God in the binding of Isaac. God asks Abraham, his devout follower, to prove his loyalty by sacrificing his son, Isaac. This story, understood in its original Jewish context, can have a lot of complex meanings and methods of understanding, which are more than we can discuss today. Ultimately, it is about human sacrifice. In the Bible, God intervenes and Isaac is saved. Isaac's life is valued. In the game, no one is coming to save Isaac. In fact, he's sacrificed by multiple people in multiple ways. By the company who sent him out, by the scientists who believe he should die, by the people he works with who turn on him. Playing the game, I was expecting a twist. The fact that Nicole, for instance, has been dead the whole time felt inevitable to me. But I wasn't expecting the betrayal. That Kendra, one of the few people who has been helping you this whole time, doesn't care about your life, is just another way the story tries to make Isaac's life seem meaningless. Of course, she represents the company behind the events, the Concordance Extraction Corporation, or CEC, the Dead Space universe's version of the big faceless evil corporation, like Umbrella Corp, InGen, or Weyland-Yutani. Kendra leaves Isaac for worse than dead, trapped on a ship with monsters and no way out. She doesn't care at all about his life, and neither does the corporation she stands for. It was never a rescue mission. The people on the Ishimura were abandoned, and so was Isaac. It's worse because we trusted Kendra. She was one of the few people on our side, making us feel like we weren't alone. Once Hammond dies, she is all Isaac has, but she never cared. It was all an act. Worse yet, she spends the game sowing seeds of doubt in Isaac and the player, constantly critiquing and questioning Hammond, implying he is keeping secrets and has his own agenda, when of course she's the one actually working for herself. Hammond did care about us, but she drove a wedge between Isaac and Hammond, and eventually Hammond is killed when he's separated from the team. In the end, Isaac has no one to trust or rely on. He is completely alone, but he manages to survive and leaves on a small ship, finally safe even if he is by himself. But he isn't by himself. We see he is still hallucinating, seeing people that aren't there. So in a sense, he isn't alone. Now, this one time when he certainly wishes he was alone, in a cruel twist of fate, he is trapped in this small ship with the hallucination. It's a Twilight Zone twist, in which the one thing Isaac and the player have wanted and been denied is now allowed to us in the worst way. Nicole is with Isaac again, but it's not Nicole at all. Another interesting thing about the Endgame is that we finally see Isaac's face in a long, slow pan of camera. He's watching Nicole's video for a moment before turning it off, symbolizing his acceptance of her loss. It's the one point of development in his character we see in this game, that he loved her and by the end of the game has accepted her death. It's also at the end of the game, seeing his face, that he finally becomes a person. He's no longer a faceless entity. He's an individual. The entire game, other people and monsters try to dehumanize, devalue, and kill him, but he defeats them all. In defiance of all of it, he is a person. He is Isaac Clarke, and we finally see that, and we see his face as he's leaving it behind. Well, most of it. There's not a lot of deep lore to this game, but what is there is so masterfully reinforced by all aspects of the game, from level design to gameplay. Taken seriously, it's a powerful experience in which you are truly forced to evaluate human life and its value to you, and your own life's value to yourself and others. With every shot and every blow, Isaac asserts himself, defending his life, his individuality, and his value as a human being.